Hi everyone and welcome to the French Watch Collector. Today on the bench we have a very special project. I bought an Omega watch like this on eBay. You see, like it's like several pieces. Like I have the bracelet, I have the movement on one side. Obviously the watch was listed as not working. You can see there is 2849 from Omega, so a Seamaster calendar. So you see the case there. We have a case clamp. I think, yeah, the winding stem there with the crown. Looks like we have most of the parts, and here obviously is like the most important. We have the dial, the hand, and the movement. So you can see there the dial actually is not that bad. Yeah, so I took a big risk buying this watch on eBay like this. So let's see if I can put it back together and make it run again. So that would be the task from the video today. So trying to align, you see the date was jumping at midnight, so that's working. Just remove the hand there with a presto tool. Just protect the dial with a piece of plastic there, just to make sure I don't scratch this beautiful dial. I like the patina on this dial, so I will just leave it like this. Just storing the hand in this box there. Put the dial a bit later on. Okay, just removing the dial fit screws there. Just you see these tiny screws. Just to release the dial, and with my carbon tip tweezers, yeah, I'm just gently going underneath to release the dial there. There we go. You can see the underneath the dial now of the mechanism. So just storing the dial in this box, special box to store the dial. They don't move. And you can see there the movement is actually working, but it's very bad. Losing 376 seconds per day. The amplitude is low, the bit rate is very high. So yeah, we need to do a lot of work on this movement. So let's just take it apart, and we will fully disassemble it, fully clean it, and put it back together, and we see if there is anything wrong when we disassemble the movement. Yeah, like I said, I took a very big risk when I bought this watch on eBay, but yeah, this watch, obviously, I didn't pay a lot of money for this watch because yeah, with the it's like a puzzle. It's like in several pieces, but yeah, it's a nice. I could see the potential in this watch, so yeah, I took a risk, but hopefully a good one. Okay, so now I'm just removing some parts on the calendar side, removing the Canon pinion with my Presto tool there. So friction mounted, so you need to do a special tool to remove the pinion. There we go. So now I put the movements in the vise there, and I will just start to disassemble on this side. Oh, and the first surprise you can see there, something was wrong. The post from the rotor of the automatic winding system is broken. Yeah, you see the piece of the post stay in the rotor there. You go, if it fell in between the parts, just here, yeah. So yeah, I will have to find a replacement for this part. There you go, you see the piece there, it normally is here. So that's not good. That's the first bad news, but we should be able to solve this issue, yeah. So I'm just removing this plate there, which is from the bridge for the automatic winding system. You can see there as well, the movement is 503. So it's 500 series. It's one of the first automatic winding movement from Omega with a rotating, with a rotor, yeah. You know, you have the bumping mechanism. I restore some on my channel, where you have a weight that was bumping from left to right on spring. And this one, obviously, until today, has most common winding system with a rotor, which is just rotating 360 degrees to wind the watch. Yeah. Okay, so I carry on with the disassembly. Just removing the central second there. You see the long Canon pinion, the long pinion of the central second that was inside. Just removing the power in the watch now. Just gently removing the click out of the way and just keeping the crown in between my finger and just releasing very gently. There we go. So that's the power is out of the watch now. So we can disassembling the rest of the part very safely. Just try to remove this part there on top. It's a bit like a reversing wheel, or it's a kind of wheel which is attached from the automatic system to wind the mainspring. Doesn't want to come now, so just leave it for now and we come back to it a bit later. Just remove the balance assembly. Always one of the first parts that I remove, just to make sure I don't damage it during the disassembly. Just gently taking the assembly there. There we go. Just carrying on now. Just the pallet fork with the pallet fork cock on the top. Go. Just checking if the jewels, if the parts are in good shape. The pivot point on each parts. Just checking if they are not bent or broken. But so far so good. And now we have the train of wheel bridge, and you can see, yeah, there is a wheel on top of it. So yeah, that's kind of weird. Like this wheel is staying attached to this bridge here. Just checking, bridge looks good. And you can see this wheel actually is like a double level. You have two wheels attached to each other. Yeah, that's the first. Okay, so now I try to remove actually what is the ratchet wheel. There we go. Now everything came out. Yeah, it was a bit tight, and you can see there on the bridge there is some dried up oil or grease, like this kind of black brown stuff around the. Yeah, it's a dried up oil. So yeah, we'll have to clean all of that, and just to make sure, yeah, we remove any friction of all the grease or old oil, and obviously we put a brand new one. Okay, just remove the central second there. Now we're removing this barrel plate. So we have the barrel assembly underneath. There we go, just removing the plate there. That's the one with the dried up oil on it or grease. And we have the barrel assembly there. We disassemble that a bit later. Again, you can see at the bottom there is some residue that we will have to remove. Okay, so we move to the dial side where we have the rest of the keyless work. So same, we are going to take everything apart, removing the minute wheel there, intermediate wheel, the yoke spring, which is a strong spring, the yoke. You can see the parts there on my bench are starting to pile up a bit. We have the parts there, kind of a spring, which is keeping the setting lever in place. This is the setting lever. There we go. And now we have the winding stem with the winding pinion and the clutch. There we go. Just keep all the parts together, and all of this will have to go through a cleaning. Now I'm just cleaning my jewels there with a piece of pegwood, just to make sure, again, I remove any dried up oil or grease on there. There we go. So now put back the balance assembly on the movement, just to make sure as well it stays safe during cleaning. It's a safe place to keep the balance assembly, especially to protect the spring, which is very fragile. Now I'm just going to disassemble the sub assembly. So we have the bridge, you remember, from the automatic winding system. So I'm just taking this plate out, and underneath we have a couple of wheels there, which is driving the power from the rotating weight, so the oscillating weight, to the mainspring. Okay, so just removing all the parts there. We put them in a cleaning machine. Just checking everything is okay. And the last parts, we have kind of a click there that I'm just removing. There we go. And all these parts will have to go through the cleaning. And same with the barrel assembly. So just pop up the lid up. There we go. Just checking inside. It looks quite dirty there. You see, like, it's very dark brown. So it's an automatic movement. So maybe it's normal to use some graphite grease. So maybe that's why it's a bit dark. But yeah, we'll have to clean all of that. And obviously we'll put back the proper grease when we will reassemble it. So now I'm just trying to remove the barrel arbor. There we go. And we have the spring. It just jumped out of my hand. I did not keep it. Yeah, it did not go very far. So here are the parts. And I'm just cleaning, like I said, it was a lot of oil and grease. So again, with a piece of pegwood, just removing as much grease or make it loose. And all the parts will go in these cleaning baskets, and they will go through the cleaning cycle. Because the baskets are ready, the part are ready, and now we can put all of this in my vintage Elma cleaning machine. There we go. So we start the cleaning machine. So 4 steps. First one is cleaning, 2 steps of rinsing, and the last one will be the drying. I have a special thank you in this video to Gregory Corna, which is my first patron. So I have a patron account. So if you want to follow me and support me, you can go there and subscribe to one of the membership. And thank you, Gregory. This means the world to me to be my first patron. So if you like what I do, you can subscribe to my channel and as well subscribe to one of the membership on Patreon. So thanks in advance for your support. Okay, so now we are just at the last part. We are drying the parts. Here we go. The basket is, the parts are fully clean, fully rinsed, fully dried. So we can take all the parts out of the basket and we should be ready to reassemble the watch. Okay, so but first look at we are going to focus on the case. I'm just removing this strap, which is not the original one, so probably not going to reuse it. I don't really like it. I'm going to try to clean the case. The case will go through the ultrasonic machine, but first, again, with a piece of pegwood, I will try to remove as much dirt as I can. And it will go through the ultrasonic machine for like 30 minutes to finish removing the dirt which is on the case. Okay, so the balance assembly, I'm going to oil the jewels. So first I need to open the shock setting device, taking the jewel out. We are going to clean them, treat them in epilam. So now I'm putting them through the cleaning through the treatment. Sorry, it's not cleaning, it's already clean in epilam. So I put the jewels inside, just leaving for 10-15 seconds in epilam solution, drying them. So the epilam will help the oil to stay at the right point and not to slide if you want, or to move over. And now I'm just dropping a small drop of oil on the jewel and just putting the chaton on top of it. There we go. And now that is oiled with a drop of oil in the center, we can place it back on the balance assembly. Closing after, we'll have to close the spring on top of it. Checking it's aligned. Yeah, looks good. It's moving. Just closing the spring, and obviously we'll have to do exactly the same thing on the other side, on the other tool, on the calendar side, on the dial side, sorry. So just take it apart. We'll treat it in epilam the same way. Just put a drop of oil and we'll place it back in its location and closing the spring. So this, like that, the balance assembly is fully oiled, ready to go back after on a movement. Obviously, we'll go back on the movement much later on in the assembly process. Okay, so far so good. The movement looks quite clean. You can see the main plate there, looking good. So we'll see when we assemble all the parts and oil everything if the movement want to start, and we get a better accuracy than what we were getting. You remember when we put it on a typographer. Okay, so now we are going to focus on the balance assembly. So put some grease there at the bottom, and now I'm putting some graphite grease. So some P125 on the wall there, because it's automatic movement. So the spring will slide on the wall when it's fully wind up. It's not like a manual wind where the spring will get blocked. You cannot wind it anymore. Obviously, automatic system, it keep on winding. So that's why you will have a lot of rotation. Like the main spring will slide on the walls of the barrel. So now I'm placing back the harbor in the center. Go. Just putting a bit of grease as well on the top, where on the lid there. Just gonna close it, but yes, I just forgot something on before closing it. Just need to make sure I put a bit of oil on top of it as well, because we'll have a point which is a contact metal to metal. And obviously where we have a lot of points which are in contact between parts is subject to friction. So to reduce the friction, to reduce the wear, and to improve the amplitude of the watch, obviously we need to grease and oil all these points. So now I just close the barrel in this little tool. So the barrel assembly is fully closed up, properly greased, properly oiled, so it's ready to go back on on the movement. So first, just put a drop of oil on the bottom there, where the mainspring assembly is gonna barrel assembly, sorry, is gonna rotate. Can put the bridge on top of it, just securing it with the 2 screws. So 3 screws on this bridge, sorry. The first one, and now we put the other 2. Again, you can see me putting a lot of oil. So basically, we have like 3, 4, 5 kind of oil depending on the movement. So you will have some different viscosity in oil, a medium, a high, and a low viscosity oil or grease. So depending on the application, or depending where you put the oil and grease on the movement, you will put like a different type of oil or grease. So obviously, like parts where we'll have a lot of strength frictions, you will put like heavy grease or heavy with high viscosity, and the part we will rotate very fast where with less friction. Obviously, we put the oil with like a low viscosity. So obviously, you can find sometime like some oil charts like on different movements, mainly on like more modern movements. But after, there is some general rules, and after a while, you know which oil you need to use or which grease you need to use on the different point of the movement. Okay, so now I put the ratchet wheel back in place. Now I'm going to assemble the crown wheel. So just putting this disc first, and before putting this before putting the crown wheel there with the tooth. So yeah, again, you can see me lubricated with a bit of oil. Like the red oil, you can see me like the tip is red. It's a medium viscosity oil. So I use Moebius 9104. And after, yeah, I will use other oil. For example, for the train of wheel, I will use a lighter oil, 9010, on some of the wheels. So now I'm putting the wheels back from the train of wheel. So I just put the escape. Now I'm putting the 4th wheel, and you will have this strange wheel, like I said, like it's a double stack wheel. So one go underneath, one go on the top. Very tricky to install. So you see that now I keep the video running, and just to show you sometimes how tricky it is to assemble the train of wheel. And the trick actually is to put like all the wheels, the pivot point need to be in the bottom jewels there. So each wheel need to find this spot. So you can see me moving the wheel left, right, up, down, until I find the spot where the wheel belong. And you see, I just removed the 4th wheel because actually it was in a way. It was a bit more, yeah, you see there, it's just sitting down. So it means I found the pivot point. And now I will put back the 4th wheel because it was a bit in a way, a bit more difficult to put this double stack wheels. So I just remove it, and now I'm going to place it back. Okay, just to find the right place. It's a bit tricky, yeah? So you need to be really patient because you don't want to use force on this because the pivot points are very thin. And obviously, when you are going to put the bridge on top of it, if the pivot points are not aligned, you will damage the pivot, and you can bend them or break them. Okay, looks like still not in place. You see, sometimes it can take quite a long time just to align on one side. After, you need to put the bridge on the top, and obviously you will need to align the other side. So yeah, you need to be really patient. So there we go. Now I'm putting the bridge just gently. So you see, like, this one wheel is on the top and one wheel is underneath. I have to slide the bridge in between the double stack wheel there. So it's pretty tricky. And now the escape wheel went out of place. So just need to lift the bridge a tiny bit so that can slide the escape wheel underneath here. So you see, it's quite tricky to, and especially this one with this double stack wheel, it's a bit tricky to install. Okay, so that looks a bit better. So now with a piece of my plastic stick, I will just put a tiny bit of pressure on the bridge, and I will just make the wheels move. Ah, here we go. You see now it's rotating. So it means that each wheels find the right place, find the right pivot. So when it's done, I can put the screws, and basically like the train of wheel is fully assembled now. Go now. I'm just lubricating the different pivot point. I will just install the top layer again. There is another layer where we have the spring there, and we'll have the long pinion of the second wheel there that going right to the center. Just first I put the screw where we have this little spring. Just oiling the second pivot there that goes through the central wheel. There we go. It's in place. And we have another bridge that come on top with 2 pivot points. So one for the second wheel and one for this double stack wheel there. So just need to make sure everything is aligned when it is. There we go. You see it's rotating. Everything is rotating. So that's good. When everything is in place, again, I can secure it with the screws. So it's not a very complicated movement because it's only automatic with one complication, which is or if we can consider that being an automatic movement is one complication, but there is as well a calendar complication. But yeah, this one is quite tricky to assemble. Like to be fair, I work on movement which are a lot simpler than this one. I found it a bit over-engineered, like compared to other movement, but yeah, it's not that simple. So now I move to the keyless work. Just put the winding pinion, the clutch, now putting back the stem, and you can see I use some blue grease. So that's some high viscosity. That's the highest viscosity grease. I use some 9501. Yeah, and I use this for the application that I will see a lot of friction between the parts because it's not a oil, it's a grease first. So obviously it's like higher viscosity. Yeah. Okay, just put this little spring there just to make sure that the setting lever is stay in place. Putting the yoke. I'm gonna put the yoke spring, just make sure it's in place. Again, you can see me putting this heavy grease there because you see between the yoke and the setting lever, when you will pull on the stem, yeah, you will see a lot of friction between these two parts. So just to make sure like you don't have excess wear, yeah, the grease or oil is essential to put it correctly in a watch. If you want to keep your movement and your watch running for a long time and the accuracy of the watch, yeah, the proper oiling and proper greasing need to be done on a movement. Okay, so now we'll oil the different pivot point there, these jewels, because I will not have access to this jewel when I put them in a wheel after. Just putting back the Canon pinion, which is friction mounted, so use a bit of strength there just to make sure it's sit in place. And now putting the wheels with the minute wheel. There we go. And we have the setting lever spring that come on the top as last parts of the keyless work. Just stay in place with 2 screws there. Perfect. And now just need to make sure I arm this spring there. You see on the setting lever. There we go. It's in place. It's armed. And again, using this grease, and you can see there when I'm arming, there we go. You see all the parts moving. And that part see a lot of friction when you pull on the winding stem. So that's why I use, and it's recommended to use this heavy grease, for example, the 9501. Okay, so now we move to the other side, assembling putting the pallet fork. So we are getting close to see if the movement will start. Okay, so the pallet fork there, just make sure it's sit down. The same again. Just need to make sure it's aligned between the top and bottom jewel. There we go. Looks like it's rotating. So that's good. So when it's in place, we can do just a final push and putting the screw just to make sure everything stay in place. Just put a wine, just a tiny one in the watch, and you can see there the pallet fork clicking left, right. So far it's mean that the power is coming from the main spring to the pallet fork. Just oil the pallet fork jewel there with my automatic oiler. And now the moment of truth, we are going to put the balance assembly and see if the movement want to start. So gently aligning is again the balance wheel in the bottom pivot and just dropping it in place. We go just gently there. It's not in place there. There we go, perfect. We have a runner. Really love this balance assembly as well with what we call a col de cygne. Yeah, it's this shape on the top to adjust, finely adjust the watch. Okay, so now we have the movement is running. We are going to assemble the complication, which is the calendar. So here we have the calendar driving wheel. There we go. Just put the wheels, and there you can see there is one tooth broken at the top. So I have to source a new hour wheel that I found on eBay actually. There we go. Just put it in place. The calendar wheel, I can put back the calendar wheel, just gently putting it back in place, trying to align it between the wheels. There we go. And we have this calendar plate, just putting this easy spring there, which is the date jumper, so that will make the date jump and stay in place as well at midnight. Okay, so when it's in place, we can just put the two screws there. There we go. Just going to lubricate as well the jumper to have a smooth jump if you want. Just checking if it's jumping there, just changing the time, and yes, we have a jump there. So perfect. Okay, remember the post from the automatic winding system was broken. So I just managed to find the part. So just first need to remove the broken part. So these little two screws there on the back. That's the broken part. You see there is no hole in the middle. Nope. Yeah. So I've managed to find the part. So now I'm just going to put the part back on the movement. Make sure it's aligned there. Going to put back the 3 screws. They are very, very, very small screws there. so small. So I have to use my smallest screwdriver on this screw there. There we go. Perfect. So now the broken part is replaced. We can focus on reassembling the rest of the automatic winding system. So first we have this kind of a click, this arm there on a spring. There we go. Just make sure it's aligned. Put the screw, and we are going to oil like we did on the movement. We need to oil all the part as well from the winding system. That's very important. So same, putting the wheels in the right order, obviously. And when it's done, we can put this top plate there. You can see with the 2 jewels where this wheel is going to align. So like we did as well on the train of wheel, just need to make sure we align very gently these wheels, that they fall in the jewel. There we go. That looks good. Perfect. It's aligned. Everything is in place, so we can secure with the screws. 2 screws there on this bridge, and normally we should be able to put the bridge back on the movement after oiling, obviously, all the pivot point from the bottom side. Okay, so just placing on the movement, and you see it's always the same way I do it. I assemble the movement without the complication, and after I put the complication. So like we put the calendar, and now I'm putting the automatic system, because you can see, for example, the automatic system, it's like a sub assembly on its own. You can remove it. Actually, the movement is working without the automatic function. So yeah, like the watch is running, the time is will work, but it will not be an automatic watch. So yeah, it's just an added feature to the watch. And you can do the same when you reassemble the watch. You do the main, and after all the added feature, like all the complication, you assemble them later. Okay, so you see the date. I just pop the date, just change the date. So now it means we can align the hour hand to midnight, because that's when we want to have the date change. So here we go, just press it in place, just put the minute hand again, align to midnight. And when it's aligned, we just press it in place again. It's the same way we did with the hour hand. But I just realized that when the hour hand, something was wrong, it was a bit loose. So I'm going to use my stacking set to just close a tiny bit the hole for the hour hand, because actually the friction, it was too loose on the hour wheel. So the hole, I make it a bit small. I will open it a bit with a smoothing brush. And again, I will just put it back on the movement, but obviously now it will be a lot tighter and the hand will not slide on the wheel, on our wheel. Obviously, if it's sliding, it will not keep the time, like, because yeah, if the wheel is sliding and it's not following what movement tell him to do, like the timekeeping, yeah, when it will be 2 o'clock, actually the hour hand can move to 3 o'clock and the time will be useless and the watch will be useless. So that's very important that our hand, minute hand, and second hand don't slide and has friction on the pivots of the wheels. Okay, so now the hands are on. I just put back a new crystal, and the case is fully clean. So just put it back in the case. Movement looking good. Just fully aligned. Just putting back the winding stem with the original crown. There we go. It's in position. Just put back. You remember in the little box we had this clamp there. So just putting back the clamps, just to keep the movement in place in the case. The first one, now I'm lining and putting the second one. There we go. Putting the screw. Perfect. Now the movement is in place. I can place back. I already tried. You see, I put the oscillating weight just to make sure it was okay with the new rotor. With the new pole, sorry, it was fine. So now I put it back in the case. Oiling the post there, very important, because obviously it will be constantly rotating. So just to reduce the wear, just putting some oil there. O-ring, so that's the O-ring that we put on a case back, just to make sure the watch is as watertight as possible. But before, we need to treat it with some grease, so some Molykote in this case. Now just apply some grease there. There we go. And now I'm just going to place back the O-ring as it's done, as it was done originally in the case back there. So it's the case back is not a screw-on case back. So just need to close it with by hand with a bit of strength. It will just snap in place. There we go. And now just close it, just snap it in place. And here is the finished product. Lovely watch. So now the only question is the movement accurate, and is it a good timekeeping? But I love this watch. So here I put it on a time grapher, just waiting the movement to stabilize a bit. You can see the amplitude is not that high. I would have liked it to be a bit higher. It's around 230 to 40, but the movement is stabilizing around 0 plus or minus 5 seconds. The bit error is just around 1, so that's good for me, because you remember it was around 5. So it's not the best. Maybe I will tweak it a little bit more, but yeah, that's already good. For, you remember, a watch that we bought fully, like in parts, fully like a puzzle. Lovely watch on my wrist. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I see you next time. Bye bye.